You've probably heard by now that Apple's about to go through its biggest leadership change in more than a decade, which is obviously massive news. But between the lines, there's another story Apple's been subtly hinting at that's pretty telling of where the company may be going for the next decade. And the biggest clue was this quote they chose to start the September iPhone event with. "Design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works." Which was followed by Tim Cook talking for several minutes about how central that exact philosophy still is to Apple today. Now, a company that's thought to spend billions of dollars a year on hyper-calculated marketing doesn't put a Steve Jobs quote at the very beginning of their most important presentation of the year by accident. If you spend any time on tech YouTube, Reddit, or just reading industry analysis lately, you've probably seen the exact same criticism over and over again. Apple feels a little stale. The iPhone updates feel increasingly iterative. The rollout of Apple Intelligence has been slower and more fragmented than anyone wanted or expected. And while Apple continues to sell an unbelievable number of devices, there's a growing perception that the company just isn't taking the kinds of big risks that it once did. Whether you agree with that criticism or not, Apple is clearly aware of it. And that's what makes the timing of the Steve Jobs quote so interesting. The more I thought about it, the more it reminded me of another transition at Apple, one that happened more than a decade ago. Apple might seem like a very different company today than it was then, but beneath the surface, there's a familiar challenge that Apple has dealt with before. And to better understand where Apple may be headed next, we first need to understand what happened the last time the company changed CEOs. When Tim Cook took the reins in 2011, Apple was already one of the most successful companies in the world, but he was plagued by one simple question that followed him everywhere. Can Apple actually innovate without Steve Jobs? For years, critics argued that Apple was just running on autopilot. The company kept releasing better versions of existing products, but there wasn't a major new category that people could point to as proof that Apple's creative engine was still firing. To the world, it still felt like Steve Jobs' company, and Tim Cook was widely viewed as just an operations guy keeping the machine well-oiled. The first real attempt to change that perception came in 2014 with the Apple Watch. It's easy to forget now, but the initial reaction wasn't universally positive. Plenty of people dismissed it before it even launched. Critics questioned the battery life, called it a solution looking for a problem, and mocked Apple's decision to sell a solid gold version for $17,000. I think we can all agree with the critics on that last point. But even though that specific luxury strategy didn't work out, the experiment taught Apple a vital lesson. If you frame technology as a true leap forward, you can rewrite the rules a bit, which we saw play out exactly 3 years later with the iPhone X. When Apple announced a $999 smartphone in 2017, people thought they'd lost their minds. People mocked the notch, they complained about losing Touch ID, and they said Apple had finally pushed its pricing too far. But Apple was testing a theory. Would people pay a massive premium for a device that genuinely felt like the future? As it turns out, they would. The iPhone X was a massive success. It completely normalized the premium smartphone market that we live in today and paved the way for Pro Max models and Ultra pricing. But it took Tim Cook years of brutal trial by fire to get there. Years of criticism, years of being compared to a legendary founder, years of being asked whether Apple had lost its edge. But what's most interesting isn't what the iPhone X did back in 2017, it's what Apple seems to have learned from it. Because that grueling years-long narrative crisis is exactly what Apple wants to avoid this time around. They don't want John Ternus spending the first several years of his tenure trapped in Tim Cook's old defensive playbook. They want him on offense from day one. And when you look at Apple's rumored roadmap, it starts to become pretty obvious how they're planning to do it. If you're Apple, the easiest way to avoid years of questions about whether your new CEO can innovate is to make sure he's launching products people haven't seen before. Unlike Cook, who had to spend years proving Apple could still innovate, Ternus may be walking into a company that's already preparing for its next big wave of bets. In many ways, Cook inherited products, Ternus may inherit categories, and that's a very different starting point. Look at what Apple's rumored to be building, a folding iPhone Ultra that could cost upwards of $3,000 for a top-spec version, a massive massive hardware-heavy push into the smart home with dedicated displays and home security devices like cameras and doorbells, and eventually true consumer smart glasses. Whether all of these products succeed is almost besides the point. The important thing is that none of them are safe bets. They're expensive, they're risky, and they're the kinds of ambitious products people claim modern Apple doesn't pursue anymore. And that's where the parallels to the iPhone X become hard to ignore. The goal with the rumored folding iPhone Ultra isn't just to sell another device. It's to establish an entirely new top tier that sits comfortably above the Pro Max. And just like the iPhone X was used to break the original $1,000 threshold, the folding Ultra is designed to see if they can shatter the $2,000 or possibly $3,000 barrier. But the folding iPhone Ultra isn't really a test of pricing. It's a test of how much people are willing to pay for what feels like the future. In other words, can Apple create another iPhone X moment? And if that works, the bigger question becomes obvious. How many new categories are they willing to apply that strategy to? Because if these products succeed, Ternus will get credit for leading Apple through one of the most ambitious eras in decades, what could become Apple's Ultra era. And that brings us right back to the Steve Jobs quote. On the surface, it sounds like a simple, comforting reminder of Apple's roots, but viewed through the lens of a leadership handoff, it feels much more like a deliberate setting of expectations. The company isn't introducing John Ternus as a caretaker or an operations guy, they're introducing him as a product person, someone who will be judged by what Apple builds next, not just how efficiently it runs. If Tim Cook spent the last 14 years proving that Apple could survive without Steve Jobs, John Ternus is about to spend the next decade proving that Apple can still surprise us. And based on the roadmap Apple appears to be building around him, they seem pretty confident.